Good morning, people. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about marriage and relationship. The last 2 weeks we've been talking about singleness, and last week we talked about common mistakes singles make. And today we are continuing the mistakes, but this time I want to focus on the ladies. So today we are going to talk about the common mistakes ladies make, single ladies make. And next week, of course, we'll talk about the common mistakes men make, single men make. So today we'll talk about the common mistakes single ladies make. And this, I am very excited to talk about it because I've been there, I've made some of them, I've seen people make some of them. I'm speaking a bit from experience as opposed to just theory. But it is well, I'm ready to share with you so you don't make the same mistakes. So last week we talked about 5 mistakes that singles make. If you don't remember them, please go and watch the previous episode. You'll see the mistakes that we talked about. So today, the mistakes single ladies make. I'm talking especially to single ladies. And the very first single ladies mistake that I will point out is that we get physically involved too soon and we go too far. You know, when ladies meet a man they like, when a single girl meets a man she likes, some of them, as soon as they meet this guy, they're so excited and they do so many things that they wouldn't ordinarily do in their lives. I once met a single lady who she had had sex with a man on like their second date. So she slept with this guy. And after sleeping with him, she realized he didn't love her that much, that he had ulterior motives. And she was so devastated because she was like, this guy used me, and all that stuff. But you know what's so funny? Is she was more concerned about being used by the man than she was concerned about the fact that she had sinned. You know how God intends sex to be within the boundaries of marriage. That is it. That's the God standard. That's the standard we are called to. So when we are single, we have to settle it in our hearts that we are not going to have sex until we are married. So that whatever the relationship we have with a man, no matter how attracted I am to you, I don't know, no matter how much my hormones are saying things to me, I have to know it at the back of my mind that no one that I'm not married to will have sex with me. I remember when I was in university, it was those days when people had boyfriends that had cars and they'd pick them up, take them on a date and drop them back and things like that. So it kind of was the cool thing to do. And the Bible warns us against conforming to the standards of this world because, wow, every time we conform, we get ourselves in trouble. So anyway, so I had friends who had guys who had cars and would take them places. So I met this young man. And he had a car, and he was so respectful, and he was smart, and all that stuff. And kind of, I just liked hanging with him because kind of it just made me feel good, like to be picked and to be, I don't know, looked after and all that stuff. So you guys, I hung with this guy. But one thing I noticed that the pressure to have sex was so much. Like this guy would put me under so much pressure. I couldn't understand it. Like literally every time I met him, leaving him was a tug of war because it was always this thing of he wants to touch you, and I used to feel like a part of me hated it. But I think because man, it's the in thing, I persevered through it. And then I found out he was married. And I knew for me that was my ticket out of this pressure of sex and all that. So I remember sitting with him and he asking me why, I'm playing hard to get, I don't know what. And I remember telling him that, but you're married. Like, I can't have sex with you because you're married. You're married. So even this, what we are doing is wrong because you're married. So he's like, what does that mean? Like, what does married mean? was like, now I look at it, I look back at it, and I'm like, this guy had no respect for his marriage. I hope he sees this YouTube. But anyway, so that was the end of our relationship because he was married. It was my ticket out of I don't hang with single men. I mean with married men. I don't do things with married men. So I left him because I was married, and he sent me a WhatsApp later. What they called WhatsApps or SMSs at that time, I don't remember anyway, but he sent me a message asking me what's up. And I told him because he's married and I also want to get married someday, so I can't hang with him. And then he made the comment that not everyone who has sex with you wants to marry you. In other words, sometimes we just have sex for fun. Like, it doesn't lead into marriage. And I was like, what? So I told him, watch this space. I am going to get married and have sex when I'm married. So anyway, that's how we parted. And that's why I'm saying I hope he watches this thing, because I was right and he was wrong. Anyway, please do not get too physically involved too soon, too much, because there's a standard, and the standard is you can only have sex after you are married. So do not feel pressurized. Do not feel, I don't know, don't feel that because this guy is dating you, he has a right to have sex with you. Do not go there. Sex is only within the boundaries of marriage. So don't make that mistake of getting physically involved too soon, and don't go too far. And I know you're going to ask me what's too far, but we'll talk about too far some other time. The other mistake women make is we have this list of requirements, of I want a man who is tall, dark, handsome, rich, I don't know what, all those things. So because we have this list, we end up judging people too quickly and too selfishly. Like, every time I'm approached by a guy, I'm judging him by my list of requirements and by the things that I want. I don't stop to see what is he like, what's his character like, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, what kind of man is he. We don't look at that because I have my list. I have to stick to my list. Tall, dark, handsome, rich, I don't know, whatever your list is. Do not stick to that list. It's okay to desire to have a person of a particular way, but just know that we need to be open-minded to see more into people than just those superficial lists that we've come up with. So that list of requirements that you've been carrying, that your spouse to be must have, it's okay to have it, but be open-minded so that you're not judging people too selfishly and too quickly. The other mistake ladies make is we panic over the scarcity of Christian men. It's so funny that I've been in church for a while now. And as a single person in church, because we want to marry Christian men, we are constantly looking at the men in church and you're like, this one, the only good person is so and so. So you find that Bambi in the church, there's just one guy whom people think, he's the most eligible bachelor. And somehow we are all looking at this man, like he's the one, he's like what's that one, the ultimate prize. So you don't even want to see anyone, you're all fixated on this guy. And it's so funny that some of these guys end up, playing all the other girls, and then you all think he likes you, he said hi to you, he's your friend, and then guess what? He wakes up one day and he's like, I'm engaged. And you're like, what? I thought I was the one, and you find out you're not the one. So do not be in a panic. Like, God is able to supply you the right person. Do not panic because in your church there's a small number of eligible bachelors. There are eligible bachelors everywhere. There are good men everywhere. And God is not limited by space and time. So it's not even a must that the guy you're going to marry is the guy you serve with in the ushers team. Maybe you're going to marry someone from another church. Maybe there's a man for you somewhere. So do not panic and make stupid mistakes because you think the men are getting finished. The Christian men in church are getting finished. The other mistake single women make, is that we run on our emotions too often. A lot of times, because we are human beings and we have hormones, so we feel certain things, But we cannot run on our emotions. We cannot run on our emotions. It's animals that run on their emotions. Animals sleep anytime. I mean, they have sex anytime when it's the season. You'll be there. Someone once gave an example when they're talking about how animals go by their emotions and their seasons. And they were like, this thing of in the village, you have visitors, you're seated in front of visitors having lunch, the chickens pass and they start mating right in front of you. You're like, please, guys, is this the right place to mate? But that's how animals are. They run on their emotions. If it's time to mate, they'll mate. If the cock sees that chick, to just start chasing it and mate with it. When the dogs are in the mating season, they'll see a dog, they'll jump on it, they'll mate it. But that's not how we are. No, we have control over our emotions because we are children of God and we have the Holy Spirit and we have the gift of self-control. So even if I meet a guy and I'm like, oh my God, this guy makes my heart go boom, 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 I still have to think, what do I want to do? Is this the right person, God? Is this the person you're telling me to look up to? Like, there's more to relationships than emotions. It's the movies, Hollywood. Hollywood just makes it look like the man saw the lady, love at first sight. They went to Vegas, they got married, and they lived happily ever after. Like, man, it's just that thing of it's a feeling. But that is wrong. That's a lie from the evil one. Our relationships are not just about feelings. So do not be the kind of lady who makes decisions based on your emotions. Do not run with your emotions. Many times when you're talking to ladies who have gotten into trouble, maybe they've gotten pregnant unexpectedly, and I'm like, what were you thinking? And they're like, I don't know what happened. One thing led to another, and before you knew it, you have to draw your boundaries and say, emotions or not, I don't do this and that. Emotions or not, I have to live a certain way. I started by saying that we have to settle it in our hearts that sex is only within the boundaries of marriage. So once you have that settled in your heart, then you know that this is a line below which I cannot go. It doesn't matter how I feel, even if I found this guy who looks at me and my heart melts, I have to remember my standard, and my standard is no marriage, no sex, period. Whatever the emotions say, we have the power. It's within us to control. And I really believe that that it's possible. It's possible to not have sex until you get married. Because I am one of those people who is a strong believer that every instruction that God has given us, every instruction, He has given us the grace to what's that word, to carry out the instruction. Even things like, how we talk about submission in marriage, we talk about husbands loving their wives, we talk about children honoring their parents. All those instructions, God has given them to us because He knows that we are able to fulfill the instruction, to carry out that instruction. So there's no instruction that God has given us that is too hard, that it's impossible. No. And so even with the hormones that God has given us, He knows that even with these hormones, you can still exercise self-control. So do not run on your emotions. Because sometimes emotions come and go. Not sometimes. Our emotions come and go. But there are bigger things that we have to focus on. There are bigger things that we have to think about. And then the other thing about single girls is we talk about men too much. We think about men too much. You guys, when I was in campus, I can guarantee you, I think 60% of our conversation was on this dude and that dude and this one. Can you imagine this dude? He looks nice, he doesn't look nice, he's about what? Man, you talk about it so much that it becomes the thing, you know? And yet there's so much we can do with our lives. I was talking about how singles can maximize their lives and find fulfillment in so many other things. As single people, there's so much to focus on. There's so much time we have to read the word, to go out, have fun. Like, just stop being fixated on this cool guy and the other cool guy and this man who did this and this one who smiled at me. I don't know what. That's the thing many single girls do, and I think it's a mistake. It's not something you should be doing all the time. And then the other mistake that single girls make is that we tend to be too open, too vulnerable, and too transparent. You meet a guy on day one, wow, by the time he leaves you, he knows he knows everything about you. Like, you've literally opened up your heart to him. You've poured out your heart to him. Now, that the challenge with this though is that some people who come into your life are just passers by. So you don't want to be there knowing that, I told Trevor this, now he knows me too much. And then Martin knows me too much. Like, it even works on your self-esteem and how you carry yourself. You know, the thing about trust and opening up and being vulnerable is a journey. Like, the more I get to know you, the more I open up. So it's a slow thing. So I'm only able to give you as I feel comfortable to give you. But some of us are so open. Like, we are so, like, the moment you meet the guy like this, he knows everything about you, everything. So even when he walks away with all these secrets of yours that you even don't want to pass around there, because you're like, oh my God, those guys know me. Like, they know you because you've been too open. Like, let us take it as a journey, so that the more we get to know them, the more we are willing to open up and to be vulnerable, because you can't just be vulnerable to everyone and everything. Vulnerability is a sign of love. Like, I'm only vulnerable to you to the extent that I trust you, and trust is not going to be something that I get on first sight. Like, I meet this guy and suddenly I trust him, and then I'm telling him my things, and I'm opening up my heart and telling him I don't know what makes me do what. You know, you're so open, like you're an open book. You're so transparent to this person whose motives and intentions you don't even know, you know. And then when the guy walks away, you feel like you've been betrayed. But the guy didn't come to listen to your stuff. For him, he was just a passerby who probably greeted you nicely, and before you knew it, you poured your whole heart to him. So let us, it's a journey. Let us go through that journey of getting to know people before we can, let them in fully, so that we are not hurt and we don't go around feeling like we've been betrayed by people who had no intentions whatsoever of betraying us or hanging around with us. So I think those are the common mistakes that I have seen ladies make in my circles. I have made some of them myself, and I thought I would share it with us so that we can be watchful and not make the same mistake. Like I keep saying, you better learn from other people's mistakes so that you don't make the same mistakes in your life. So next week, we are going to talk about the mistakes young men, the common mistakes young single men make. So please call your single male friends, and also ladies, so that you can watch out. You know that, oh my God, that is a mistake. I'm not going to be the victim. So thank you for coming. I wish you guys a lot.